Yasodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Govinda Shri Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vasavasade Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Sasakita Purvachanitsis. So reading today from text Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 7 and 8. I'll read through the first one, but we're going to be focusing on text 8 because it has a much bigger purport. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text number 7. Priyavatato nampado sattarupa patesuto vasudevasya kalaya rukshayam jagatashito. Translation. Swayambhuva Manu had two sons by his wife, Satarupa, and the names of the sons were Uttanapada and Priyavrata. Because both of them were descendants of a plenary expansion of Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they were very competent to rule the universe, to maintain and protect the citizens. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. It is said that these two kings, Uttanapada and Priyavrata, were specifically empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unlike the great king Rasaba, who was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Okay, so text 8 is the one that we'll chant together. Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Suruchi Prayasi Patyur Nittarayatsuto Dhruvaha Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Suruchi Prayasi Patyur Nittarayatsuto Dhruvaha Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Suruchi Prayasye Patyor Netrayatsuto Dhruvaha. Please repeat. Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Suruchi Prayaseyatur Netayo Yatmado Dhruvaha Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Suruchi Prayaseyatur Nitarayatsuto Dhruvaha Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Suruchi Prayasi Tatyur Netarayatsuto Dhruvaha Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayoho Suruchi Prayasi Patyur Nitarayatsuto Dhruva. Anyone else? Jayupadadasya Suniti Suruchistayo Suruchi Prayasi Patyur Nitrayatu Sudadhasa Jaya Uttanapadasya Suniti Suruchistayo Suruchi Prayasi Patyur Netrayatsuto Dhruvaha. Translation. King Uttanapada had two queens named Suniti and Suruchi. Suruchi was much more dear to the king. Suniti, who had a son named Dhruva, was not his favorite. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sage Maitreya wanted to describe the pious activities of the kings. Priyavrata was the first son of Swayambhuva Manu, and Uttanapada was the second. But the great sage Maitreya immediately began to speak of Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Uttanapada, because Maitreya was very eager to describe the pious activities. The incidents in the life of Dhruva Maharaj are very attractive for devotees. From his pious actions, one can learn how to detach himself from the material possessions and how one can enhance one's devotional service by severe austerities and penances. By hearing the activities of pious Dhruva, one can enhance one's faith in God and can directly connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one can very soon be elevated to the transcendental platform of devotional service. The example of Dhruva Maharaj's austerities can immediately generate a feeling of devotional service in the hearts of the followers. Okay. So let's begin this by talking about the wonderful pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. Some of us may know about these pastimes, others may not know so many details. So, firstly, who was Dhruva Maharaj in his previous life? Actually, Mahavishnu appeared before Dhruva and revealed his previous birth. So in a previous life, Dhruva was actually a Brahmin, and he used to meditate upon Lord Vishnu with the concentration of his mind. In course of time, whilst he was that Brahmin, he befriended a wonderful prince who was young and beautiful, had a very bright complexion, and was enjoying so much all the pleasures of the world as a young prince. Attracted by the position and status of that prince, the Brahmin, who later became Dhruva Maharaj, wanted to become that prince. So, of course, Krishna, Vishnu, from within the heart, granted him that wish. And in the next life, Dhruva is born as a prince. Of course, we learn that it wasn't a perfect arrangement in the beginning, because Dhruva Maharaj, even though he was born as a prince, he wasn't so much favored. Why was this? As it's explained here, King Uttanapada had two queens, Suniti and Suruchi. However, his favorite queen became Suruchi. Even though Suniti was the first queen, the king favored Suruchi. So there was a famous pastime where the son of Queen Suruchi was playing on the king's lap. And seeing his younger brother playing on his father's lap, Dhruva thought, I would like also to sit there on my father's lap. So what happened? Dhruva tried to climb onto the king's lap, but favoring the other queen, the king neglected him, didn't allow him to complete his action of climbing onto his lap. And of course, then that Queen Suruchi, she said very harsh words to Dhruva, even though he's a very small boy. And we all know that things which happen to the small children, they very much can stick for the rest of the lifetime. So the queen actually said to him that you cannot approach the king like that, because you were not born from my womb. So this is very harsh words to tell a young boy who is only after the affection and validation by his father. She told him, the queen, she said, if you want this kind of a privilege, then you'll have to undergo severe austerities in order to take birth in my womb. And to do that, you will have to approach Vishnu. Again, remember, this is a 5-year-old boy she's telling this to. So it's very strong to say this. So, of course, how did he react? Small boy Dhruva was very pained by this, and he ran back to his birth mother. And he told Queen Suniti of what just happened. Suniti actually admitted to Dhruva that, in fact, it was correct, that the only way in which, bless you, the only way in which Dhruva would be able to get his desire was to approach none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, as a small boy, Dhruva was very much pleading, like, but how can I do this? What must I do? He was very much determined. And another thing to remember is Dhruva, he is a warrior. He's from the Kshatriya. That's his Varna. So he was very determined and very, he actually became full of anger by this, even though he was also upset and just a small boy. So she advised him that the only thing that he could do in order to find God would be to leave home and focus his mind on the Lord's lotus feet. So immediately, Dhruva, at the age of 5, left home and ran to the forest, to the jungle, just a small, young 5-year-old boy. When he reached that place, he began asking all the animals inside the jungle, where can I find Vishnu? Where can I find God? And this was causing a commotion. But Dhruva, he was so determined and he was so fixed and focused on what he wanted to do. So, seeing this, Narad Muni appeared before him. Seeing the qualities in Dhruva, seeing that he was so determined. So then when Narad Muni appeared, Dhruva explained that I've come here because my mother told me that I need to find God. So his stepmother and his mother had both told him that if he wants to get his desire, he must approach Vishnu, he must find God. So passionately, the small boy tells Narad Muni this. Narad Muni is listening. And he also tells Narad Muni that the reason he wants this is because he's determined to get a kingdom that's better, a kingdom that befits him, that he also deserves, which he understands he's not going to get because his mother is no longer favored by the king. So Narad Muni tells him to actually begin practicing austerities. And he also gives him the mantra, Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya, to chant. So, actually Narad Muni tells, he instructs Dhruva Maharaj to practice the 8-fold path of yoga. So, maybe some of you are familiar with what the 8-fold path of yoga entails. I'll just run through it. So the 8 limbs of yoga are described as 1. Yama is, again, he's a 5-year-old boy. So yama, this is abstinence and ethical principles. So these are the guidelines of how we can actually conduct ourselves ethically and live in harmony with others, which include things like ahimsa, non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, and brahmacharya, as well as not coveting things, not amassing material things, aparigraha. The next thing, niyama. So these are practices which cultivate positive qualities. So we have one thing which is like externally, how we interact, and another thing which is internally, how do we cultivate that within us. So these things include being clean, being content with what one already has, our self-discipline, different austerities which we may take, self-study, and finally surrender. Then number 3, the one which everyone's most familiar with, is the asana, the different poses. So oftentimes we see in the scriptures that someone who is aspiring to get the darshan of Lord Vishnu will stand on one leg for many, many hundreds of years, performing an austerity to catch the attention. But in order to be able to do that, you have to have a whole lifestyle. It's not just a performance of gymnastic or aerobic exercise. So here we have the 4th thing, which is breath control, your pranayama. So controlling the breath, the movements of the life airs through the body. Then we have pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. Just as we understand that just like a tortoise, we need to withdraw our senses so that we can focus. And this will allow us to actually approach the platform of meditation. If we cannot control our senses, if we cannot withdraw those senses, then we cannot actually begin to approach that platform of meditation. Number 6 is concentration. So this is just being able to focus the mind, just being able to close out all the noise and all the chatter from the mind. And then 7 is actually the meditation itself, deep contemplation and mindfulness, where we were able to still the mind and deeply focus and connect to our inner self, as well as the Supreme. And then finally, we can get to samadhi. So that when we're in complete absorption of the Supreme. So these are the instructions. This is what Narad Muni actually gave Dhruva Maharaj, this 5-year-old boy. These are the instructions that he gave. And of course he gave the mantra so that the boy could focus his mind. And he also gave descriptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as recommendations of different austerities which the small boy could follow so that he could have a complete fast track of how he would get there, how he would get this darshan of Vishnu, which he so ardently and determinedly seeked to see and experience. So Narad Muni described the form of the Lord. He said, "The Lord's face is perpetually very beautiful and pleasing in attitude. To the devotee who sees him, he appears to be never displeased. Every limb of the Lord is always youthful. Both his eyes and lips are pinkish like the rising sun. He is always prepared to give shelter to the surrendered soul, and one who is fortunate as to look upon him feels all satisfaction. He is the ocean of mercy, wearing a garland of flowers. He is eternally manifest with 4 hands, which hold the conch shell, the wheel, the club, and the lotus flower. In addition to meditation on the eternal blissful form of the Lord, Narad Muni also instructed Dhruva Maharaj to chant the sacred mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, to pray to the Lord and worship the deity form of the Lord. So, by this process, from these authorized instructions from Narad Muni, he was, after much time, I don't know exactly how much time, he was able to reach his goal. But in doing so, in doing this process that was given to him by Narad Muni, he himself became very much purified, and his initial desire of actually, wanting to see Vishnu in order so he could find a way, because he was told by both his mother and his stepmother that in order to get his desire to be honored in a way which he thought befitted a prince as himself, in order to gain a kingdom, he wanted to see Lord Vishnu, to demand for this. So for a moment we can just reflect on that for our own selves, about how perhaps in the beginning of our lives, or even at any point of our life, we may have material desire. We may think, we may start out thinking, yes, I really want this thing. Or we may not even be aware of the thing that we're actually looking for. But there's always something, as we know, which drives different people to come to search for Krishna, to come to seek the association of devotees and understand what is the absolute truth. So, one moment. So when this happens, at first we begin on a material platform. But through the process of devotional service, as given down the parampara, just as Narad Muni gave it to Dhruv Maharaj, the child Dhruv Maharaj, we are able to actually purify that desire and actually reach much higher platforms and much greater understanding and realization. So let's backtrack slightly here. So when Dhruva Maharaj actually left the palace, his father actually felt very regretful about what he had done to his young son. As, of course, I'm sure we can understand, we may feel like that if in that moment we reacted in a way and then we see we hurt somebody. We can regret that for a very long time. We can replay that back in our minds perpetually. So the king became very perturbed by what he had done. And he actually admitted that his material attachments had clouded his good discrimination and caused him to react like this and to treat his son in such a way. So Narad Muni actually came and assured him that Dhruva would actually indeed be very successful, beyond anything that he could imagine. Because being under the protection of the Lord, Dhruva would be okay, even as a small boy in the forest. And of course, Narad Muni had given him good instructions, and he was now practicing this process, this eightfold yoga system. Nonetheless, the king actually began to lose all interest in his kingly affairs and duties and became completely overwhelmed by the thoughts of his young son. So it's actually wonderfully significant where this forest was that Dhruva Maharaj went to perform his austerities. Does anyone know which forest he went to? Yes, Madhuvan. So Madhuvan is one of the, how many forests are there in Vrindavan again? The 12 forests of Vrindavan. I highly recommend, if you go to Vrindavan and you go on your Braj Mandal Parikram, that you make a visit to Madhuvan and spend at least half a day there. Because it is in Madhuvan that Dhruva actually began these arduous practices, these severe austerities and these yoga asanas, this whole lifestyle that he began with, which included fasting, pranayama, the whole thing. He began these things in Madhuvan. And I myself have been to Madhuvan, I think, 2 times. I went there with His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj. He would often take us to Madhuvan when we did Vrindavan Parikram with him. And we would spend quite some time in Madhuvan. Madhuvan is a very beautiful forest. It's actually still a real forest, which As we understand, as the Kali Yuga progresses in Vrindavan, many of the forests are drying up and becoming very dusty and desert-like. But this area still has nice trees and a dappled light. And within Madhuvan, there is Maholigram, and there is a place called Dhruv Tila, which is located in the east of the village, and which there is actually a deity of the child Dhruv, where he actually was worshipping Lord Vishnu. So there we actually see a deity form of Dhruv Maharaj in his child form. And it was there that he was practicing his mantra, which was given by Narad Muni. And it was actually there which Lord Vishnu appeared in front of him. And when Lord Vishnu appeared in front of him, he granted him the kingdom of the earth for 36,000 years, as well as the pole star, Dhruvalok, which is the eternal abode of Sri Hari within this material world. So there's only very few places that when the whole dissolution of the universe occurs, these things remain, one of which is Jagannath Puri, another of which is the pole star Dhruvalok. So it's a very significant place, beyond the scope of my mind to fully understand the workings of the universe and the events which happen in the dissolution of the universe. So, so in that place, Madhuvan, these austerities he practiced. So as he began to practice the breathing exercises, so stage by stage, Dhruva was practicing the different things that Narad Muni had given him. Now, of course, we all know, what does yoga mean? Anybody? Link up, connection with Krishna, exactly. So, linking with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is essential for all living beings, no matter which stage of life or which area they're in. All living beings should endeavor to do this. So Dhruva Maharaj was taking up these severe austerities. So within this first month, he ate only fruits and berries. Not just that, only on every third day. Again, small 5-year-old boy. We cannot fully understand the greatness of this personality if we try to compare it now to ourselves or our relatives or people nowadays. So then in the second month, what did he do? He decreased that. He ate only every 6 days. And then finally he stopped eating fruits and berries, and he ate only dry grass and leaves. So he continued, and by the third month, he cut down to simply drinking water only once every 9 days. And he remained completely in trance, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he had no other thought other than God. He was completely fixed. And how was he so fixed? Anyone can think about the story of Dhruva Maharaj so far? How did he remain so fixed? By determination. We'll carry on discussing that soon. So by the 4th month of this yoga practice, Dhruva as a small boy, had mastered the breathing exercise of pranayama, and he would inhale air only every 12th day. Yes. In the 5th month, it carries on, still controlling his breathing, he concentrated his mind fully on the Supreme Person and stood on one leg like a completely motionless column. You see, it's a very popular, there is a poster of me, but which I'm trying also to do this this tree pose. And so this actually, to perfect this, you need to practice many different austerities in order that you can stand completely motionless on one leg, which seems at first like, oh, it's very easy. I will just stand on one leg. But this is staying there for a very, very long time. And not just that, he's not eating, and he's also now suspending his breathing. So he stood there motionless like a column on one leg. Then, in the next month, Dhruva became completely absorbed in trance upon Lord Vishnu, Krishna. And he suspended his breathing by closing all the holes of his body. So one of the practices that you can learn in yoga, asana yoga and pranayama, I can't remember what they're called again, but basically they're different locks that you can do with your body, where you actually physically lock different parts of your body inside the abdomen, the anus, and the lungs, and breathing holes, nose, etc. So this is how he closed all the holes of his body. And he identified closely with Lord Vishnu in consciousness that when he stopped breathing, in fact, because his austerity and because he had built up so much of this amazing yogic power, in fact, just as a small boy with so much fixed determination, in fact, the total universe became choked up. And all of the demigods of the universe actually began to feel what happens. They couldn't breathe. They began themselves to feel completely suffocated. So, of course, then it's like, oh gosh, what's going on? What's happening? It's another one of these calamities of the universe. So, thus, then, all the demigods, they tried to understand what is happening, what is going on. And of course, then they turned to Lord Vishnu in fear, saying that nothing in the universe is able to breathe, and the universe is, grinding to a complete halt. So then the Supreme Personality of Godhead assured them, do not worry, I understand what is happening here. These calamities are actually due to the severe austerities and determination of the king, of the son of King Uttapada. So then everybody got to hear about the great austerities and the determination of Dhruv, just as a small boy. Vishnu then said that one who is fully absorbed in thoughts of me and who has obstructed the universal breathing process, you, Dhruvmaj, can return to your respective homes safely, and I shall stop this boy from his severe acts of austerity. So Lord Vishnu then understood, someone is very keen to see me. So he then went to find the boy Dhruv. So whilst this is all happening, whilst he is retaining that breath within him, he was visualizing, he was seeing, he was getting the darshan of Vishnu within his heart. But then all of a sudden, he felt like his trance broke, and he was perturbed, surprised. Oh my goodness, what has happened? So he opened his eyes, at first thinking, oh, where is my Lord? He has disappeared. He has gone from me. What has happened? But then, of course, right in front of him, when Dhruv's meditation broke, he opened his eyes and he saw, who did he see right in front of him? None other than the beautiful Lord. And of course, he immediately fell down to the floor and offered his humble obeisances. Completely overwhelmed, Dhruva wasn't even able to offer appropriate prayers of glorification. But, seeing this, as we know, of this pastime, there's often wonderful paintings which depict that Lord Vishnu, Narayan, the four-armed form, he puts his conch to Dhruv's forehead. And then he actually is able to speak through. Basically what's happening here And I found this very, very interesting, very inspiring, that it's only by the mercy of Krishna that we are actually able to say prayers of glorification to him. So in this way, once this conch shell touches the forehead of Dhruv, then Dhruv is able to become divinely inspired and pray very eloquently. So isn't that interesting? It's only by the Lord's mercy that we're actually able to offer such prayers of glorification. So all these beautiful prayers and bhajans that we sing, they have come directly via the inspiration of none other than Krishna himself, touching his devotee and inspiring him from within. Enable us, just like Dhruv Maharaj, or of course other great personalities who we sing those bhajans and prayers of, to actually eloquently worship Govinda. So of course, in this whole process, Dhruv Maharaj, he has become transformed. Of course he has become transformed. We just heard together the different austerities, the degree of dedication which he had to go through in order to get what he desired. He went through so much, and he had unfailing determination and focus throughout the whole time. So of course this transformed him. So within his prayers, Dhruv actually admitted his foolishness of seeking material benefit from the Lord instead of wishing for none other than just being in the perpetual association of sincere devotees. Because of course that, we can understand, is the most important thing for our spiritual life. Anyone will tell you, I'm sure senior devotees can also ascertain to it, the most important thing in your devotional life is to have association of devotees. Without that association, it's very hard to build upon having fixed faith, and also to be able to practice this process of devotional service. So of course, the Lord then understood from within the heart. He knew what the boy Dhruv was after from the beginning. He knew that what Dhruv wanted was a kingdom greater than any other. So he awarded him with a place which is never destroyed, which is the highest star above all other stars, Dhruvloka, the pole star. And he also awarded him the kingdom of rulership over the entire earth for the 36,000 years. However, in humility, even though he was awarded these things by Vishnu, he still repeated that he was very much ashamed of himself for initially going after material desires, for initially desiring to see Vishnu simply so he could get a better kingdom. So finally, the boy Dhruv returns to his kingdom, where his father eagerly welcomed him with overwhelming love. So the boy Dhruva then offered respect to both of his mothers, who were very happy to see him, as well as greeting his younger brother nicely. He offered glorification to his mother, and all of them were amazed to see their son again, the young boy, and the transformation which he had undergone. He then became enthroned as the king. And the father, Uttarpada, renounced the world and entered into the forest, embracing a life of renunciation. So furthermore with Dhruva, it doesn't end here. Dhruva actually, he married 2 wives, and his brother and stepmother both passed away. When Dhruva had discovered that his brother had actually been killed by yakshas, he became very angry because, remember, he's a warrior. So, of course, he went to seek some kind of revenge. He had to seek revenge as his honor as a Kshatriya. So then, of course, a great battle ensued. And when Dhruva was just on that brink of victory, the Yakshas conjured up a dust storm with their mystic power. Of course, assisted by sages, Dhruva was able to recover and annihilated all of them. This, of course, really ignited the very much the aggression that lies within a Kshatriya king. So seeing this, his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, reminded him that the Lord becomes satisfied when the devotee greets people with tolerance, mercy, friendship, and love, equality. So, how did Dhruva reach that perfection? Some of you know that at the end of his life, Dhruva actually, not just by seeing as a boy, not just by seeing Vishnu was that his perfection in life, and then becoming the king of the entire universe for 36,000 years and attaining the pole star. It doesn't end there. So, once Dhruva Maharaj's anger subsided, one moment. He saw Kubera. Who is Kubera? He is none other than the treasurer of the demigods, who instructed him. And as a result, Dhruva then ruled with great saintliness and satisfied all of his citizens. He then enthroned his son and renounced everything and went to Badrik Ashram. Where is Badrik Ashram? It is in the foothills of the Himalayas, and it's a recurring place of pilgrimage which often comes up within the Shastra. It's a place where where Vedavyas went into meditation and into a cave, began to write all of our Shastra. Lord Chaitanya also visited there, and of course the Pandavas, they went on their pilgrimage there towards the end of the Mahabharata. Has anyone been to Badrik Ashram? Yes. So Badrik Ashram, when you first go there, even though you're in India, it strikes you as being absolutely freezing cold when you arrive. A very cold place, and still to this day, it is a place where different sages will go in order to go in to seek enlightenment and stay there in this ashram. It is also there that you will find a wonderful temple which opens in, I think, it opens sometime in May. The rest of the year, from I think December until sometime in May, it is closed because it's snow up there. That's how cold it is. It's completely covered in snow, and it's understood that only the demigods can go and worship at that time. So in that sanctified atmosphere, with perfect mind and sense control, there Dhruva was able to become completely focused on the Lord, and his intense devotion triggered uncontrollable symptoms of ecstasy. So whilst he became completely absorbed, two effulgent messengers of the Lord, the Vishnu Datas, arrived before him. And they had actually come to take Dhruva back to Godhead. And they invited him to board one of the celestial aeroplanes. After offering respect to the sages and the airplane itself, he began to embark. Just at that moment, the death personified appeared before him. And then, of course, he had a moment where he thought, well, what about my mother, dear Suniti? What will be of her? I cannot leave her here. I cannot go on this airplane without her. But of course then, the Vishnu Dutas assured him that, of course your mother is also coming with you. She's also going on a plane. So we can understand, as many of us know, that when somebody becomes a pure devotee, when they reach a perfection, they actually benefit their whole lineage, both going forwards and going backwards. And they will also attain this this kind of liberation. They will go back to Godhead. So let us take a few moments to discuss the determination of Dhruv Maharaj. Like how he did this, and how we can do this in ourselves, how we can reflect upon this, and how we can, with sheer determination, we can approach the platform of Bhakti Yoga. So, does anyone want to share something about how they have had an instance of being very much determined in their Krishna consciousness, in their desire to serve? It could be to learn the mridanga, it could be like to learn a verse, or anything like that. Does anyone have an instance that comes to mind? Yes, Janmastami Prabhu. There we go.
There's the from the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, where there's a description of how Srila Prabhupada was reading the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of Bhagavad Gita, and he was really struck by his commentary on chapter 2, text 41, Vivyashyatmika Buddhir Ekiha Kuru Nandana Bahu Shaka Yanantashta Buddhayo Vivyashayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in determination, their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus. I think I got most of the translation.
Yes.
And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this resolute determination comes from making the instruction of the spiritual master one with his heart and soul. And this is exactly what Srila Prabhupada did. He read this after he met, first on the very first meeting. The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave him an instruction. You are educated young men. You should preach Lord Chaitanya's message to the English-speaking world. And then Prabhupada he just became so focused, and that focus is shown. That focus is shown by how he just went through all kinds of challenges. 2 heart attacks on the Jaladuta. Then after he got to America, like a year and a half later, he had another heart attack. And it was just one challenge after the whole Juhu temple craziness, and the challenges with opening the Vrindavan temple. He just kept going, no matter what. And who could imagine someone at his age, with his health challenges, he traveled around the world 14 times in 12 years. And how many volumes of books did he write, that translate and write the purports to? I think it was like 60 or 70 volumes, something like that. Just unbelievable. And so it's in one sense comparable, maybe, to what Dhruva Maharaj did. I mean, it's like Prabhupada is an eternal associate of the Lord, sent with a specific mission, and he carried it out. Right at his birth, the astrologer predicted that he would travel around the world, spread Krishna consciousness, open 108 temples, and he did it. And that was because of this Vivyashyatmika Buddhi.
Fixed determination.
So when I've, taken on a service, that's usually what I try to do, and that allows me to go through the intense challenges that are usually there and come out the other side. And it's the modality that's very pleasing to Krishna. We're recognizing the value of the parampara and really bringing it onto the practical platform. anyway, some of my thoughts.
Thank you so much, and Masami Prabhu. So, exactly, if we ourselves, even if we ourselves are somehow find ourselves lacking in some kind of determination, we can look at the example of others, just like John Masami Prabhu was explaining of our great founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. His determination was extraordinary, especially here in New York City. We're very much a part of that. When we see and we experience, especially in wintertime, the different pastime areas of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, where he was, the different things that he went through. Even he would say, I give so much of my blood to you, my disciples, to in the end point of his life, he so much wanted to give, and he so much was determined to follow out the orders of his spiritual master. So thank you so much for those reflections and giving us a moment to think about that for ourselves, giving us something to meditate on for the rest of the day. I'm really short on time, but I'm going to talk about Akshaya Tritiya, which is also today. As many of you know, it's known as the day to begin anything. So it actually occurs because our lunar calendar is divided into two halves, a dark half and a light half, a bright half and a dark half, which are 15 days of each. So Akshaya Tritiya actually occurs on that third day of the bright half of the month of Vaishakha. This month, Vaishakha, is actually, in many places in India, Bengal, Punjab, Orissa, and Assam, it's actually considered to be the first month of the year. So let's break down Akshaya Tritiya. Where does it come from? What is it about? So this word, so we have Akshaya. So Shaya, Kshaya, Shaya, actually means decaying, perishing, decreasing. Another word for actually tuberculosis, which is very much like it eats away at a person. It eats away at a person. Another name for tuberculosis is actually kshaya. So when we add an A, just like when we add an A in even in Latin, it means the opposite of that. Just like ahimsa means non-violent, whereas himsa is meaning violent. Or a theist is somebody who is religious, and an atheist is somebody who is not religious. So, in other words, akshaya means the opposite of something that is decaying. It means, so what is the opposite of decaying, of decreasing, of, what is the opposite? Any guesses? Opposite thing of decaying, something decreasing, something. Growing, exactly, something growing, ever growing, something that is prosperous. So it's understood that any acts of piety, any acts of bhakti, any acts of devotional service done on this day will never be diminished. Of course, we understand that any acts of bhakti will never be diminished anyway, but it also goes into saying that any kind of acts that which increase that punya inside one never gets diminished on this day. So on this day, many people, there are actually several days in the Vedic calendar which promote these wonderful times where people will go out and they'll do wonderful deeds for different people. So if something is very prosperous, it means that it is indestructible, it is everlasting. So where did this actually come from? What is the history of this? So when looking up this word akshaya, of course we come up with akshaya patra. So what happened here? So when the Pandavas were exiled to the forest, wandering from here to there, they of course had to rush and to leave very quickly. Their house was no longer, it was burning down. So they had no supplies with them. So they prayed to the sun god Surya, who then gifted them a copper pot to Yudhisthira. And this pot was called Akshaya Patra, meaning that it was always full. So it was always full and able to feed them. I won't go into it too much because there's obviously there's a whole pastime about the Akshaya Patra pot, including Draupadi herself. So, so on this day, there's so many things that happened, as well as the Akshaya Patra. We understand that this is the day in which the Ganga actually descended to the earth. It is the day in which Treta Yuga began. And it is also the day that Vedavyas began narrating the Mahabharata to Lord Ganesh. So now, like continuing this tradition of great beginnings and wonderful things, it is very auspicious and to begin something on this day. We here, we can take a sacred vow to begin something. Keep, just within yourself, begin something. Give yourself a sankalpa that from this day, I will focus more on my rounds or my meditation, my devotion to Govinda. Externally as well, we're going to begin the opening of our Kadamba Cafe just over in the other room. Very exciting day. We began it already by doing an auspicious ceremony. And mantras were chanted, coconuts were broken. So this is a day to begin these wonderful acts and to really find a way to both internally and externally commit ourselves more to this path of Bhakti Yoga. So just again, to take inspiration from Dhruv Maharaj and to understand what happened to him and his transformation. Of course, there's this famous verse where he actually describes, he compares his determination to his final reward. He had actually realized that he went into the forest searching for particles of broken glass, but instead, what did he receive? He received many wonderful, beautiful diamonds. So we can understand that on this day of Akshaya Tritiya, many people may ask for material things, just as in fact Dhruv Maharaj, he asked for something material. But through that fixed determination, through a sankalpa, like a fixed focus within ourselves, we too will be able to gain the darshan of Lord Vishnu, and we will be able to finally reach the supreme destination. We will be able to go back to Godhead. One other thing that's also happening on this day is none other than a Chandan Yatra. So does anyone know what Chandan Yatra is? It is the day where we put sandalwood paste on our beloved Lord. So here it's not so much, in India you see it in many of our temples. So there's a whole pastime that goes into this. I will just try to skim it, and it involves Mahavendra Puri. So, of course, when we smear sandalwood paste on anybody, what does it have? It has a very cooling effect. And it's very beautiful because you will see the preparations. Normally, I'm still in Vrindavan at this time of year, and I'm just about to come here. And the preparation for this is everybody gets involved in the grinding of the sandalwood on the stone. Some of you may have seen in our pujari room, it takes time. You have to, with water and with sandalwood, grind on a stone in circular motions, and you get small amounts of paste that come. So of course this is very cooling, and what's happening right now in India, it's so hot. It's unbearably hot, in fact. So anybody who wants to go for prasadam is more than welcome. Anyone who wants to stay just to hear why it is we have this Chandan Yatra is more than welcome to stay. I don't want to keep anybody in anxiety for the prasadam. I'm talking about how it came to be that we have this Chandan Yatra. How it came to be that we actually put the sandalwood paste on the deities, particularly in India. Of course, it makes sense because it's very hot today, or very hot at this time of year, very hot. Anyone that's been in Mayapur or Vrindavan can agree it's unbearable. it's difficult to exist. Your brain is like struggling to comprehend how hot you feel. And you spend most of the time inside, because even just going for a short walk outside with the sun hitting you, it's actually quite difficult to do. So this came about because of Mahavendra Puri. So one time Mahavendra Puri was actually sitting in Vrindavan near Govindakund doing his bhajan. Then a small boy came and offered it to him. Mahavendra Puri hadn't eaten anything that morning, so he was extremely attracted to this. Oh, there's a small boy, he's bringing me something to eat. This is wonderful. So the boy replied that no one goes hungry in his village, and that his mother had observed for a long time that Mahavendra Puri was sitting there, chanting, not eating. So this is why he's coming to bring him something. So, of course, after this boy went away, Mahavendra Puri was thinking about this boy constantly. And as he drank the milk that he'd been given, he was like, wow, this is extraordinary. This is nectarian. What is this? And then he just had an intense yearning to see this boy again. So he waited for a whole day, and then the nightfall fell. So Mahavendra Puri actually fell asleep waiting for the boy, and then he came in his dream. And he told him that actually, due to fear of a king's attack, that a Brahmin had buried him in a bush nearby. So how intriguing. This physical boy had come to him earlier in the day, given him a pot of milk to drink, seeing that he was in deep meditation, chanting the Lord's name. And now the same boy has come in a dream and said that I'm actually buried in a bush nearby. So he requested Mahavendra Puri to rescue him. So as soon as Mahavendra Puri woke up, he realized that boy, who is that boy? Who could it be? Krishna, exactly. So he went to the place that the boy had pointed out in the dream, and he found that bush. And there he began to uncover what's underneath the bush, dig into the ground, and then he excavated a beautiful deity of Krishna. He then established that deity of Krishna on Govardhan Hill and named him Gopal, as that had been the name he'd been told in the dream. And then, of course, everyone began to worship Gopal by bringing him various foodstuffs. So as they were bringing him so many different things, after some time, Mahavendra Puri had another dream. And the Lord said in that dream, the same boy, he said, because I've been lying in that bush for such a long time, in the earth, in the intense heat, I'm just so hot. I've become unbearably hot. I'm uncomfortable. So please, can you smear me with this sandalwood paste all over my body? So Mahavendra Puri then woke up and understood what he needs to do. So after some time, I'm trying to save a little bit on time. So this is basically where we have this pastime from. By the desire of Krishna in his deity form, speaking to his devotee who finds him, uncovers him, and telling him about how he would like to be covered in a sandalwood paste. So basically, Mahavendra Puri, then he goes to Jagannath, and then on his return, he actually goes to smear the body of Gopinath with this sandalwood paste. And so this is carried out every year. It used to just be happening on this one day, but in our ISKCON temples, it goes on, Chandan Yatra, it goes on for 21 days. So in our ISKCON temples in India, this Chandan Yatra goes on for 21 days. And if anyone's seen this, it's very beautiful, because you get to actually see a different kind of form of the Lord, because he's coated in when the sandalwood paste is put on the deity, it's like a similar color to skin colors. Yeah? Similar to dancing white elephants, exactly. So you're like, oh, this is a different kind of darshan. And it's very interesting because devotees lovingly paste all over the bodies. And they even include like more enhanced kind of like kajal is put on the eyes. And you're seeing a very different form. And I think even in Mayapur, they add a color. So then Krishna is very much blue, whereas normally there he's in his blackish form as the deity there. And it's very extraordinary. And Radharani, they put, I think, turmeric inside, so she becomes in a golden form. So we get to witness this beautiful darshan, as well as, so we get to behold a beautiful darshan. We get to engage. Many people can involve in engaging in this grinding of the sandalwood paste. And the Lord becomes very pleased, very happy, because he's cooled down. And cooled down by the love of his devotees who are offering him this in devotion. Then shortly after this ends, we're kind of over the very hottest period that happens there in India. So I will end here. I've gone over time by quite a bit. So thank you so much for those of you who decided to stay. There was a lot of different things to talk about. I didn't want to cut short on Dhruv Maharaj's wonderful pastimes, as it was instructed there in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. We can actually gain a lot of taste by hearing the devotion of great personalities such as Dhruv Maharaj. And this can inspire us to gain more determination in our spiritual life, our spiritual journey. So thank you so much. Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.